Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining another Blue Circle Health webinar. We're really glad that you're here with us today. My name is Scott from the Blue Circle Health team. And at Blue Circle Health, we focus on supporting adults with type 1 diabetes through a virtual clinical care, education, and support program. And a big part of that is helping people connect with resources and opportunities that can make living with T1D feel a little more manageable and a little less isolating. And that's really what this is all about. Today, I want to introduce you to another amazing community organization, the Diabetes Education and Camping Association, or DECA for short. Some of you may have experience with diabetes camps, and others were diagnosed after that typical camp age has already passed. And it's really easy to assume that if you didn't go as a kid, that the opportunity just isn't there for you anymore. But the reality is, there are meaningful ways for adults with T1D to be involved, and that's why I'm really excited about this conversation. But before we get going too far, just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. Feel free to use the chat throughout, and I'll be keeping an eye on it as we go. The session is being recorded. Participation in this event is completely voluntary, and anything that you share may be visible to others, for example, messages in the chat. And finally, just a quick reminder, we're not providing medical advice or specific product endorsements here. For anything specific to your situation, we always recommend talking with your healthcare team. We're joined today by Lisa Gear, Executive Director of the Diabetes Education and Camping Association, or again, DECA. Lisa works closely with camps across the country and brings a really unique perspective on how these programs operate, what they need, and how people can be a part of them. And our goal tonight is simple, to give you a clearer picture of what diabetes camps look like today and to help you see how getting involved might be possible in a way that fits your life today. So whether this is something you've never thought about before or something you're a little curious about, you're in the right place now. So, Lisa, thank you so much for being here. I am going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Scott, for having me. And hello, everybody. I just want to share how excited and grateful that I am to get to be here with you, no matter where you're located. I'm joining you from Idaho today, and we'll be enjoying a little cup of late afternoon coffee. It's only about 4 o'clock here, my time. So I'm sipping and enjoying our chat. It'll be neat for you to hop into the chat that you have, and Scott's going to be able to jump in with us and kind of interface so that we can all chat together through the chat box. But like he mentioned, I'm with the Diabetes Education and Camping Association. DECA is a really neat organization that actually doesn't run any camp at all. We are a membership organization that gets to support diabetes camps that are operating all over the place. Right now, we have around 100 member organizations. Most of those are in the United States. We do have some outside of the United States as well. And our member camps run about 400 sessions of camp that support about 38,000 people with diabetes. And like Scott mentioned, and kind of when we were scooping in with one another, we realized that a lot of times people with diabetes, especially adults with diabetes, tend to think that camp is a place that is, a place for children with diabetes. And so if you were diagnosed as an adult, maybe you missed your camp experience, or maybe if you didn't want to go as a child, maybe you missed your experience, or maybe if you went as a child but have grown out of camp, you feel like you're disconnected from that experience. And so we're excited to get to connect today in this partnership discussion to share with you what the opportunities are for you to still be able to engage with diabetes camps, no matter what age you're in or, phase of your life that you're in, what you're going through. There's a camp community out there to get to support you. So that's what I'm excited to get to share a little bit more about that with you today. And I think maybe just, overall, if you want to put into the chat with Scott, if anyone is willing to kind of just even share, if we have anybody who's ever been to a camp, or if we have anybody who, anything like that would just be really fun to know. Sometimes, I guess maybe we could take a step back and just kind of like close our eyes for a second and visualize. when I say the word to you, diabetes camp, what do you picture? And I would imagine some of you are probably thinking things like, a cabin in the woods somewhere. Or somebody might be thinking going for a hike or swimming in a lake or mosquitoes and needing to apply bug spray all over in order to not get bit by those sorts of things. I also wonder if anybody ever thinks of a outing for adults, maybe at a coffee shop in town or in the city where you live, or a water park experience for families of people with diabetes of all ages and their support networks. How about something where you're picturing being at an adult only camp and sharing stories and best practices with other adults just like you who just want to talk about what it's like to be XYZ age and deal with these sorts of things. Or you see camps that are, for kids and, elementary, middle, high school age kids that are getting together and connecting and exploring what it's like to have diabetes at the ages that they're in and facing the things that they're getting to face. The really cool thing is all of those environments are true. There's diabetes camps of all shapes and sizes. We have diabetes camps that take place up in the mountains without very much connectivity at all. There's diabetes camps that take place maybe a little more of a remote location, but maybe have like a cabin or lodges and things like that with some home bases. Others are backpacking trips. Others are whitewater trips. And then we see camps also that do things at their local YMCAs, at the local Boys and Girls Club in town, camps that gather at hotels, camps that take place at huge resorts, and camps that take place on cruise ships and beyond. So there are diabetes camps of all shapes and sizes everywhere. Sometimes it's a couple of hours. Sometimes you can be away at camp for 2 whole weeks. And it really just kind of depends on where you're located, what you're able to get involved in, interested in getting involved in. And one thing's for sure, in diabetes camp world, we never want cost to be a barrier for people to get involved. So if you've ever thought, I would love to go, but if there's ever a but after something like that, and hopefully you know this through your experience here with Blue Circle Health, if there's ever a cost barrier for you that's in your way, diabetes camps is another one of those areas of the world where we want to be able to say, we don't want that to be the case. So if you want to come get involved as a volunteer, if you want to get involved, be on staff, if you want to come and get to be a participant in a camp and get to be a part of an adult camp and get to be served in that way too, we want to be able to do that and scoop you in and don't want anybody to be left out. So that's kind of the overview, all different shapes and sizes of what they look like. We have a wide variety of things that adults with diabetes can do and ways that you can get involved. But maybe for here, I'll just double check in with Scott really quick to just see if there's any questions.
We've got a handful of really great comments. So, as you were describing camps, several people talking about going to diabetes camps for many years. Some people were like, yes, exactly, cabins, bugs, wilderness, new adventures, and community that gets it. Absolutely, that's so true. Another comment about eating right and being active. That's something that I remember as well. A couple comments about a camp in Ohio that has a weekend for women. I'm not sure if that's a diabetes specific camp. Maybe can you clarify that in the comments and let us know? And then another great story from one of the viewers being diagnosed as an adult and also is also a clinical provider. So when the local support community heard what their day job was, they got her involved to the medical staff at a camp, and she says she's so jealous of the kids' experience, and that she signed up for a Connected in Motion event in Colorado. So that's great. We are also big fans of Connected in Motion as well. And just a clarification on that, adults for women, a camp for women in Ohio is T1D specific. So thank you. Thanks for clarifying that. So lots of good stuff coming in the comments.
It is. Thank you so much for sharing, though. I think what's really cool about this is, yeah, like everybody's highlighting and kind of getting excited about the people who jumped in and shared. Yeah, there's so much energy in that space, and so many different sorts of programs, and wide variety of experiences. Um, and I think also, maybe too, for those of you who haven't hopped in the chat yet, who maybe haven't yet had that experience, I want to definitely open the floor for you to be able to share any questions that you have also. It's interesting. I think sometimes, how would I say this in a way that feels really from my heart what I'm hoping to say? People, as humans, sometimes we just want to be able to just kind of get by and not have to loudly shout from the rooftops extra things about ourselves. And so sometimes we hear that people with diabetes don't necessarily want to do a diabetes camp because they might feel like they don't know that they want to need to own that they maybe need that, maybe crave that. Maybe they don't think they want that. Maybe they would rather do anything else in the entire world besides that. Um, that's also completely normal, and a really beautiful train of thought. And throughout life, I guess I would hope that all of us get to feel empowered to kind of ride the river and go through the waves on all these things. So if you're somebody who's never been to diabetes camp or never gotten involved, because publicly that's not really a place that you want to find yourself being, you would rather go to anything else, but maybe not diabetes focused. That's also okay. And I would even share with you, though, as you look at that sort of a thing, for you to even tuck in the back of your brain that these communities do exist. If you're ever interested at all or intrigued at all, the other really cool thing, and like the person who mentioned the women's camp, when you go to diabetes camp, you don't just sit around all day and look at each other like I'm looking at you in the camera here and go, hello, my name is Lisa. I have diabetes. Let me tell you all the things about my life that feel limited because of this. That's not what it looks like at all. Diabetes camp is a place where each of us just understand each other. Our format here, this kind of is a similar sentiment to how camps can feel, bringing people together who have shared understanding to talk about anything. At diabetes camp, a lot of the time, we don't even just talk about diabetes. We just talk about life stuff. You know, what are some of the cool things happening in your life? What are some of the hard things happening? There's little group conversations. There's bigger conversations. There's really fun experiences that we get to do. And just like what we all know from having diabetes, I've been living with T1D for, I don't know, over 35 years. My son also has T1D. But when you live this all the time, like we all do, you don't have to talk about it all the time to know it's present. Same thing at camp. So at camp, we have a lot of fun. We meet people who get it. We have, great connections, great community. And if your pump just so happens to beep, or if you just so happen to realize that you missed your pre-bolus that you were hoping to make, when you notice that experience, and whether you vocalize it or not, someone else there at the table with you's had a similar experience. That just feels good to know. So just something to keep in mind, that these experiences are always kind of around and lingering and available. If anyone's curious. The other place diabetes camp can also be really special for adults who maybe haven't given it a try yet. Could be for people who want to give their support people a little more encouragement and come along. We do see some diabetes camps that say bring a support person. For kids, that's often their parent or guardian, caregivers. For adults, it could be a dear friend. It could be a partner. It could be somebody that is in your life and meets you where you are with your diagnosis, supports you how you are with your diagnosis, and also would really like to be able to meet another partner of a type 1 that they could even just have a couple of real life minutes with, to be able to share, the bits of it that are a little bit challenging, the bits of it that are beautiful, where their type ones show tremendous power and strength and resilience, and to celebrate those moments. Our support people also like to come alongside sometimes. And that can just be another place that you could consider diabetes camp being a support into your life too, if you haven't thought of it that way. There's also some volunteering in camp, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But before I do that, I guess I'll check back in with Scott and just see if there's anybody else out there who has any other kind of, hasn't done it yet, not quite feeling it, other reservations or thoughts along those lines.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the opportunity. We've got just a lot of excitement about learning more about camps, learning more about where people can find camps and opportunities. Um, yeah, a lot of like camaraderie around just being in a place where everyone beeps at a point and no one even thinks twice about it. So everyone's really, it seems like they're kind of vibing along with what you're describing here. So that's great.
Oh, this is great. Okay, cool. All right, so then with that, where they can find camp and how to get connected. So DECA actually on our website, it's diabetes camps, so with an S at the end, .org. We actually have a find a camp tab on there. So you can go ahead and click that. Through the Find a Camp tab, you can go ahead and search either by like zip code or state. Sometimes also depending on where you're located in the rural spread or close proximity thereof. You might also have luck finding a camp, in like a state or an area that kind of snuggles with the place that you're located. So there's a map on there. There's also a contact form where you can reach out if you have any questions about how to connect with your closest camp. I'd be happy to help you with that. DECA does do that a lot, where people find us and just say, hey, we have a question. We want to get involved. Can you go ahead and get us connected with our local program? Our map right now doesn't have the specificity of looking for adult, like only type camps or like, youth only type camps. So what it will do is it will show you organizations that are located near you, and then it will allow you to connect with those organizations and then see what they actually have, what their capacity is, what their current program lineup is, and be able to figure out, where you might fit into that mix. The other reason that we do that is because even if they don't have an adult camp quite yet, maybe they have an adult evening activity, like a 2-hour happy hour or a 2-hour get together and meet people or learn about another community event or something like that. So you might see different things that are kind of in the same community as this, in the same spirit, but not technically camps, but that are facilitated by these camp organizations. So we just want to be sure that we can connect you with your local organization, and then they can go ahead and scoop you up into whatever programs that they have from there. And if they don't have one, then they'll know that you're there and you're interested and you want to get involved. And that phone call in and of itself might be the catalyst for change for a camp to add something for adults, just by knowing that there's a demand there for that. So again, it's diabetes camps with an S.org, and then it's the Find a Camp tab, and that will get you connected with your local camp.
Great. Yeah, thank you for that. I've got I put the website in the chat. I also really love the way you described, just simply kind of getting connected with the camping community, the diabetes camp community, to learn more about what's out there. I find that is how much of my experience with, say, diabetes social media has gone, or even local meetup groups in the area. When I moved from Minneapolis to California, I had to find a whole new set of people, and it was really about kind of taking some of those first steps and being willing to be persistent if I didn't find what I was looking for on the first outreach or first phone call. So I kind of love the idea of this sort of spider web of connections that starts to form as you reach out. And I also love that you mentioned that maybe even that initial outreach is exactly what it's like the straw that broke the camel's back in a good way to get something going for adults. So thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for bringing it up. I think it's a really good point, because sometimes we just think, I don't want to be the one to ask, or what if they don't? And let's look at that as a point of empowerment rather than a point of, nervousness that we might be pushing somebody or over asking. Being amazing health advocates for ourselves also often ends up correlating to being support for many more people in different ways. So I feel the same way on that. The other thing that we had talked about, or that I mentioned that I was going to bring up a little bit too, sometimes we want to go into find a program that can just be supportive of what we need. And we all deserve all of the support that we need. So certainly there's a place for that. Also, sometimes we feel really excited as humans to feel that we're providing a need or providing something to add extra benefit to a group of people that maybe we didn't even realize could ever need us. And so I want to also share a little bit about volunteering at camps and what that can look like. Because what we often hear, especially from adults, is when I mention volunteering at camp to a lot of people, right out of the bat, we hear right out of the gate, what we hear is that, I could never take a week off work, or I could never take the time away from my family, or I can't, I don't. And through DECA, what we really want to do is also help to support a change in that narrative a little bit. I'm sure that you can't, and I'm sure that you don't. And some of those don'ts might be don't want tos, and some of those can'ts might be just I can't do it. And those are so valid. It's absolutely okay to say no. And at the same time, if the only reason that you're not scooping in as a volunteer is because you're worried of what you can't do or what you don't have, we want to get to know you. Diabetes camps have a wide variety of needs, and every person out there has a way to get involved and make a difference in some way. So sometimes coming to camp might be volunteering for a week, like I mentioned. And that's kind of the big ask. And that often is an ask that scares and intimidates a lot of people because it takes a lot to get there. However, camps also have tons of other needs. Like maybe you're somebody who's really good at social media. Maybe you'd be willing to volunteer a little bit of time to sit on a camp's social media volunteer team and brainstorm some ideas. Or maybe you're somebody who's a whiz at accounting, and maybe you are interested in seeing if you could ever support a camp with, some bookkeeping or a treasurer role for a board or a budget, or even like if they want to build a new project but don't quite know how to put together a budget for a project, like a one-time sit-down volunteer experience. Special skills like that are really, really hard to find. You know what's even more hard to find? People with diabetes who get it, who have the special skills or have connections to us. So for you as somebody with diabetes, if there is something, and not if, I'm sure you have something in there. If you identify something that you feel like could be interesting to give, no matter what shape or size that it is, if you're an awesome songwriter, if you know how to make balloon animals, if you work at a chain restaurant that maybe would want to scoop up families and do a, come and dine here and have an awesome night out sort of a program, anything, any shape or size. Camps have volunteer needs that would love to scoop with you, get to know you, and put your skills to use in a way that could actually help a lot of people. Oftentimes camps are limited, just like all of us in nonprofit world, and Blue Circle Health is another amazing, beautiful example. We are all limited by our capacity. And so as we identify more people with skills to help with various projects, it opens up capacity doors that allow us to serve more people and do more awesome work. So even if you can't volunteer for a week, even if you can't do this or can't do that, or don't want to get bit by bugs, there's still many, many places for you within your local diabetes camp and beyond. Some of those are even remote. You can do them from home.
That's so encouraging, and I think something that I've not thought about until talking with you about it, and I'm seeing some similar sentiments in the chat. Is there? I think when I've experienced volunteering for other large organizations, it can be a bit challenging when I say, "Hey, I'd love to help. Like, let me know what I can help with." And sometimes the leadership of that organization knows, yes, we have needs for help in X, Y, and Z, and here's where you can help with that. But sometimes they also are not quite sure where to best plug you in. Can it be helpful when you're approaching an organization if you've got these special skills to say, "Hey, I really enjoy." I really enjoy accounting, or I am a whiz at Excel, or some of these other things that you mentioned, to kind of help direct them towards where you might enjoy your time to see if they might have a need, even if they haven't thought about it yet, right?
I think that's a really great point. Absolutely. So part of that in that whole active listening idea, is yeah, calling and being able to share a couple of things that are the special bits about you, and giving those as examples, I think, are really wonderful. And it might, like you mentioned, Scott, open up different sorts of experiences that the camp maybe hadn't even thought about that they actually really do need help with. Or if you'd be able to help with that Excel spreadsheet and some of that data mining, that might actually alleviate that camp registrar so that that registrar can spend more time doing camper financial aid calls and scoop more families up that don't need to feel intimidated about the price tag of camp in order to be able to come. So you're exactly right. I think bringing those skills to the table is a wonderful idea, especially for organizations that might just think, oh, we're excited to have you. We'd love to get to know you. I'll put your name on a list somewhere and maybe hopefully circle up. So I think that's a really good point. And at the same time, even if you're not exactly sure what your skill is, but you just know that you have a charge and want to help, similarly, maybe you can even just share a timeline. Like, hey, I'm working on a little bit of individual goal setting. Sometime between now and Halloween, I'd love to be able to do a little bit of volunteer work. Do you have a project that is, takes place in the city or in this location, or that I could do remote over the next, 2 months? Even giving some of those time parameters would also then make it possible, hopefully too, for you to get placed with a role that would work kind of within the things that you're hoping for. The other thought too that made me realize is, I don't know. Also, just for fun. I mean, does anyone's blood sugar just behave better when they're less stressed out? Right. I think that there's science to this point. And I'm kind of a little sarcasm in that. We know that there is, right? But sometimes I think too, when you can find a way to be part of the momentum, in a way of giving back in any shape or size, not only does it feel really good, which has so many benefits for us, also, though, getting to show the connection, getting to feel connected, getting to do it in a way that you're helping other people also hugely supports your own well-being. So as much as volunteering is about supporting the organization that you're supporting, there is nothing wrong with, and actually I think it should be hugely celebrated, that doing that also will hopefully lead to more relationships that you'll get to have, more connections that you'll get to have, more feel-good benefits that you'll get to have. And, when you run into a spot and you're having a little bit of a rainy day, and you've met somebody else in your town who also likes to do some of this volunteer work sometimes, it gives you another person maybe you could send a text message to and say, hey, you want to get out and go for a walk? So there even is some really powerful connection and just, benefits all around from getting involved, not even as a participant, but also just through the participation piece of volunteering. So I want to encourage you to also keep that in mind too. There's nothing wrong with feeling that getting involved in that way is also really beneficial for us as people, because it really is. So we want you to feel that way too. It's a big part of it. It wouldn't be a partnership if it was just only one way. Camps certainly want to be partners in that. And so want to be sure that all of our staff teams and volunteer teams feel that they're really supported and scooped up along the process. I'm thinking here, are there any other thoughts or questions on that, Scott? And if not, I have a couple other ideas of where we could go.
We don't have any burning questions, but so go ahead and run with it, and then I've got a bunch of just backup, like things we can talk about too that I'd love to get to as time allows.
Okay, that sounds good. So one of them, just for fun, because this is a camp presentation. How about you guys want to do a little repeat after me camp song? The nice thing is too, since we can't all hear each other, then Zoom won't give us the little buffer of singing over each other. So we'll do a repeat after me song because we can, and then we'll turn it back over to Scott and see what other sorts of questions that we could do based on some of the talking points that we have for today's chat. Okay, so how about the squirrel song? The squirrel song is fun. The little kids love it because of all the hand motions. And it's also really fun because it just has really silly lyrics. So depending on where you're located across the country, you might have different squirrels. So the squirrel song that I'm going to sing is just about just a squirrel, but some people sing it as like a gray squirrel or other things. So if you have a specific squirrel, you're welcome to input the name of it there. But okay, so what you do is you assume the squirrel position. Okay, so I'll do a little bit and then you'll repeat after me, okay? Squirrel, squirrel, shake your bushy tail. And then we do it again. Squirrel, squirrel, shake your bushy tail. Wrinkle up your little nose, put a nut between your toes. Squirrel, squirrel, shake your bushy tail. Wrinkle up your little nose, put a nut between your toes. Squirrel, squirrel, shake your bushy tail. Yay, squirrels! All right, hopefully it's not stuck in your head the rest of the day, but hopefully it made you smile. That's the goal.
A total earworm there for sure. And I was very intentional in saving the world from me singing about the squirrel. So thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
I'm curious to know, how has the role of diabetes camps evolved over time? And maybe not. Like I also see camps as one of these just treasured things that part of what makes them so special is they don't evolve. They are just this peaceful, beautiful place where people come together. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a really lovely question, actually. I think that people with diabetes and camps in general, there's a few different things here. One part of it for camp, there's something really special to be said about just continuity and having something that you know that you can count on. So camps, I think one thing that just does remain unchanged is that the idea of camp is really less about a physical place and more about a community and people coming together. So the spirit of this is, let's bring together a community that can care about each other, that can support each other, that can, love people, care about people, support people, every person for being who they are. That remains unchanged. One of the really amazing things, while that remains unchanged, is fortunately diabetes and diabetes treatments and technologies do not remain unchanged. Thank goodness for this. So what's really wonderful about camp is you do see some of that foundation piece, which is care, support. We want to be sure that we provide experiential education, networking in a healthy place. And also, as things in diabetes change and as our world changes, diabetes camps are a place that is also updating to be sure that we're current in terms of things that are happening. So as there's advancements in the way that diabetes is done, as science helps us learn new things, new ideas, new perspectives, new maybe guides of what you should do less of or more of, diabetes camps are a place that do stay current with that, with those educational models, and want to be sure that we're teaching the best that we can at camp what is the most current best practices overall, while also respecting the idea that diabetes is so individual for each person that has it, and at each phase of their life and based on what they have going on. in the world around them and within themselves as well. So yeah, some of the things that are the same, meeting people where they are, community, education, support, making sure that people know about resources and can get connected to those. And then just fun along the way. And then the really wonderful thing that's evolved is exact composition of what we teach and talk about at camp, as things update and we get to teach and talk about new things.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I really like how you structured that in there's kind of these core principles, the community and the support and these types of things that are always there and always remain the same, and then the things that evolve that build around that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We had a
Yeah.
great comment that I want to share that another takeaway from working with people at camps, and in this comment specifically, it talks about kids, but I think it would apply across the board, is exposure to new things, or maybe something is like trying a new pump site or wearing a CGM in a location that you hadn't thought of, or being exposed to insulin pumps if maybe all you've used is pens or MDI for a long time. So it's really great points.
It's such a powerful point, and whoever said that, thank you so much, because that is 100,000,000% right. Um, and actually, even too, there's another fun thing to put in the chat if anyone is willing. But yeah, when we all get to think about, take those bits to actually really celebrate these steps that we take in our diabetes experience, and that just hugely transform our life. Yeah. So for little kids, it might be, like you said, a little different than an adult. And also, some of those are probably entirely the same. But I was actually out with a friend just a little bit ago today, had a meeting with him, and he had his sight way up on his like shoulder. And I said, Zach, tell me more about that placement, because I always see arm sights a little lower or farther back. And so we had a really neat chat about the reason that he has incorporated this into his sight rotation. And so, again, having this for even so many years, it's still getting to learn and get to be encouraged to try new things, I think is really wonderful. And also it helps each of us to feel, to continue just to be good life learners, and to be the best self-scientists that we can for ourselves. So yeah, I agree with you. That positive support of getting to see other people's experiences or where they do things or how they do things is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. As you describe this, I see a lot of similarities in uh, my experience with social media and what you're describing at camps, in that it's it opened me up to new ideas that I hadn't thought of before, right? It gave me some different perspectives on problems that I was having and different ways to think about approaching those problems. Because, like you mentioned, we're all so unique and individual, that people have helped me solve problems that I was having in ways that really surprised me. And also, there's this really big sense of normalcy that comes out of connecting with other people. So for example, I'll use carb counting as an example, right? I used to think I was just really I'm just a bad carb counter, right? And it's like, well, no, maybe not. It's actually, carb counting is really hard for most of us. And oftentimes we're only guessing and get it as close as we can. So that sense of normalcy, I love that.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And I think too, what's neat as we think about camps and these other environments is that, like you said, it's the wide variety of people who are there. Sometimes it's the adults learning from the children. Sometimes it's the healthcare providers learning from the people with type 1. Sometimes it's the kids learning from the adults. And there's no one direction on how any of this works. And it's really a fully immersive learning experience. And like you said too, it's a really important thing sometimes too, just to be able to look at our situations from other perspectives, because it lends itself to even probably some support of helping us just see, relative to everything else going on, things can feel really big for each of us, and all of our feelings are so valid. And also, to be able to express something out loud that I feel is really frustrating to somebody like you, and to hear your words back to me about it, I might go, oh, dang, I hadn't thought of it that way before. Now I have more fuel for my thoughts that actually will hugely transform the way I'm doing something or thinking about something too. So you're right. Those are such powerful connections. And I don't know that we can even, or we have quantified those, but certainly qualifiably, those are probably some of the most important pieces of the work that we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the hard things with diabetes is that everything we quantify so much, but there's so many important things that are just soft and human and you can't
Yeah.
put numbers to them. And so I kind of love that part as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's exactly right. Just we're just here to do the best we can do, and that's what we're
Yeah.
doing here today. And I think this is what's
Yeah.
just one of the amazing things about what Blue Circle Health has, and how you just want to be sure that the whole person is supported. Because as a person with diabetes, we don't just have diabetes. We're not just a person with diabetes. Um, and that's enough, right? That's
Yeah.
huge. That in and of itself is a lot. Um, and we each also have so many other bits and pieces that need a lot of TLC. So I agree with
Yeah.
you for sure.
Yeah, for sure. There's another great question that I want to be sure we get to. So, this person says, I would love to get involved in some of the back end activities needed to put camps on. Be interested in some more information on how I can support with things like marketing, website building, fundraising, event planning, etc. Uh, what's the best way for them to get connected?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would say thank you to you, person who said that. Seriously, that's really generous and really exciting. I think, I mean, if you look at that Find a Camp tab, if you find a location of a camp that is near you, you can certainly reach out to them and send them a message. Our website connects directly to theirs, so you'd be able to reach out to them directly. You could also just say that you are coming off of a Blue Circle Health and DECA Zoom, and that you were encouraged to reach out to them, and then that way they have a little context of how you got scooped in. I imagine when you send that message, the person that opens it is going to feel over the moon excited. So be prepared for getting an email back with a bunch of smiley emojis and exclamation points. The other way you can do it, if it feels more comfortable, since we've already connected here now, is if you do use that contact form on our website. Or I can even give, I don't know if it's appropriate, Scott, to give my email address for people to reach out, but that contact form on our website does actually send right to me. And I would be happy to get you connected, just introduced to the camp near you. And also, if for some reason the camp near you isn't the camp that you're feeling like working with, or you're looking at something else, or if you're going to be moving sometime soon, want to look at a different area, we can find the right placement for you for sure. But skills like fundraising or events behind the scenes, those are needs that legitimately probably every organization that we work with has. So anybody would be really honored to get to meet you.
I love that. Yeah, thank you. I also want to sort of double down on what you mentioned about if the camp that's closest to you isn't one that just fills your cup with what you need, that there are other camps out there that can take advantage of a lot of those tasks that you mentioned can be done remotely. And so don't let geography be a barrier there, especially if your first couple tries to the camps closest to you aren't giving you what you need out of that volunteer experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and taking that and even doing a little bit farther for fun too. If you ever get to travel someday, or you're going to go somewhere different sometime, look on social and try to plug in with the diabetes camp closest to you. They might even have events going on as you're doing, just as life continues to ebb and flow, and no matter where you go, what you're doing. If you want to be in the same physical space as somebody, that's great. And also, definitely not a need for that. And all of these organizations have things you can do in other ways too.
Lisa, what would you say to someone who feels like, okay, I want to get involved, but I'm just not qualified. I don't have anything to offer. What would you say to a person like that?
Golly, what I would say to a person like that, um, I would genuinely receive what you just shared with me from a place of feeling like with my whole heart, that I know how that feels, to feel sometimes like I don't have anything to give. And then I would remind you that as somebody living with diabetes, and as somebody living with diabetes who's already reaching out, in this space here today, watching this webinar, that you're here for a reason, and whatever reason that is, there is somebody out there whose life is going to be so much better by getting to connect with you. So even if you're not sure exactly what it is, and aren't sure if you need it, if you want it, or if you have anything to give, you as a person are tremendously important and amazing. And there is somebody out there whose life is going to be so much better, and an organization who's going to be so much more powerful, thanks to getting to connect with you in whatever way that is.
Yeah, that's very beautifully said. Thank you. Can you talk a little bit more about what kind of impact adult volunteers have on kids and families at camp? I know that's, we're talking, one part of this is like some camping experiences for adults, right? And we'll come back to that thread. But when we look at the other side of the volunteering and helping at camps, what impacts do you see in some of the kids and families there?
Oh my gosh. I think parents oftentimes, when they get to meet an adult with diabetes, there is, especially these first time camper families, um, eyes wide open. Parents get to start to see the future of the world of possibilities that their children have by seeing adults that are living, um, with this and able to balance this with wherever they're at in their life. So I think that as an adult with diabetes, you provide hope, to families who are going through this adventure as well. I think for campers, it's really kind of fun. Little kids tend to kind of, um, like look at you as somebody that they want to try to figure out how to be more like. So let's say you're on injections and you're at the dinner table or you're at the event, you do a shot in your left arm. Some kid around that table who also is on injections is going to do their shot in their left arm. Because they see you doing it. And that in and of itself provides a tremendous amount of, respect and excitement to try to do something like an adult who's dealing with this also. So that's really neat. I think also too, kids also have a fun time, I think, especially as they get a little bit older, seeing adults with diabetes volunteering, because they might start to realize that as a teenager, and life with diabetes can feel really hard in that space. And as a teen, they might be so thinking about things that they feel limited by or having struggles with. They might not even, they maybe haven't thought at all about ever volunteering. But then seeing an adult with diabetes volunteering with them, they might have a few moments in that interaction with you of changing their headspace to a place of, oh, I could take the stuff that I'm dealing with and I can actually learn how to talk about it in a way that could be helpful for teenagers in the next near future or something like that. So you give different ages of people, I think, different bits of hope and understanding, and also empowerment as an adult with diabetes who gets to volunteer at camp. It just depends on exactly where the person's at. But certainly it's noticed, and it makes a big difference whether you see that kiddo doing the shot in the exact same place as you, or you don't, with the interaction, like with the teenager, perhaps. Although maybe by the end of that interaction you have with them, they mention that they're going to be a counselor in training now at camp, or they're interested in learning about being a counselor in training thanks to interacting with you. So those are the sorts of things that we see happen all the time. And parents just get really excited to know that, their kids are going to be all right, and that this world is really hard, and that diabetes is super difficult sometimes. And also they're going to be okay. So you provide a lot of relief and encouragement for that.
Yeah, we've got And a couple of comments that I want to share. One, as an adult just recently diagnosed, she talks about how great it would be for her to learn from the kids. And I just think about what a special experience that would be for this, for a child, right? Thinking like, oh my gosh, like I'm the expert here and I can
Oh,
teach what I know. What a cool experience, right?
tremendously powerful. And also, what a beautifully genius sentiment to share, because you're right. When we can give kids the opportunity to teach us as adults, that's just going to so benefit them too. So yes, I mean, you would get to learn so much. They'd get to be heard and valued for getting to share that. And I agree, that would be a incredibly powerful connection. And in order to get involved with camps, you certainly don't have to have had grown up with diabetes or know what it was like to have it when you were 8, 9, 10, 17 years old. If you're diagnosed at, 40 or at any age that you might be, exactly right. There's still things that we can all learn from each other.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what camps actually need in order to run successfully that many of us on the outside might not necessarily realize?
Yeah, for sure. So as we talking about camp is like a session of camp where we're providing all of the care for a child or adolescent with diabetes. Camps tend to look at a handful of different things. So it's not just the amount of staff that they have, and staff could be volunteer or paid staff. It depends on the program. But we do tend to have specific breakdown of needs within that staff group. So at camp, you're going to see people like the camp director, the program directors, and then people like the activity directors, waterfront folks, specialized activities, arts and crafts, all those sorts of things. And then you'll see like support staff who maybe rove through several different cabins. The support staff could be healthcare providers or not. A lot of times too, we see like school teachers and things who are kind of roving staff who are just really great at working with all types, like children of all ages, and just meeting them where they are. So we kind of see a group that is able to kind of work with different cabin groups like that. And then within the cabin groups, we see camp counselors who are adults either with diabetes or with an understanding of diabetes. And then they're paired up with healthcare providers that are either assigned to a cabin specifically, or the camp staff in that cabin know where to go to access those healthcare providers. So that way they get to work on more of the program pieces of camp. And then we have the healthcare providers who get to help support the child's healthcare needs. We mentioned too, there was someone on here, I think, who said that they were, I forget if it was a nurse, but I'm thinking maybe so, but a healthcare provider who is supporting people who also has diabetes. Sometimes those people are also involved, which is huge and really exciting as well. Outside of those camp groups, though, we do still have the behind the scenes folks, like people who might just come and help with the check-in day for camp. Maybe you have the spot at the check-in station where you get to have the clipboard and give the camper as they come through their camp t-shirt before they go to the next spot and, get some of their camp swag or label their belongings or this and that. So there's different stations like that that are also needed at different times throughout the week. And those different things come in all shapes and sizes, depending on which organization that you're getting involved with and what that session looks like. And then there's the behind the scenes people as well. Like we've already kind of mentioned, everything from people who just want to even inventory supplies and make sure that camp has enough bug spray or sunscreen that's not expired to be able to work for the week. Make sure there's enough glucose tablets in the glucose tablet tub, or various things like that. And then helping with just making sure that forms have all been collected before camp. And, if any families maybe have, questions or need help, someone mentioned like Excel. There's, just compiling things to get everything ready for the week. All those things happen behind the scenes too, in addition to the things like fundraising, event planning, and more. We also have stuff like organization, like project management. Most camps have some sort of like a project management software that they're using. And those are the sorts of things that having people help with also is really, really important. But yeah, so wide variety of people that we need at camp: healthcare providers, people with diabetes, people who just want to get involved and make a difference in those different ways.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for taking us, giving us a little peek behind the curtain. There's a lot that goes
Yeah.
on with many events like this, right? Where it seems to run so flawless on the outside from the participants because of all the hard work of all the people behind the scenes. So thank you. And before we wrap up, so two more questions. The last question, we're not going to get there yet, but I want to get your brain subconsciously working on it. Is what is the for someone who either wants to get involved from a participation standpoint or volunteer, what's the easiest first step to do? But before we get to that question, I also want to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about what DECA does to support all of these great camps doing all of this great work out there.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so I mentioned at the beginning that DECA is not running any of the camps. See, I even let it, like a lot of people do, what you're not doing. That's what we don't do. But DECA is a membership organization. And so what happens is camp programs will join DECA as a way to find community, not have to recreate the wheel, and then get support for the things that either all of our camps need, or like regionally or based on the organization size that they need. So DECA is an active listening partner. We get to learn what camp programs need in order to be able to serve their campers and their families the best that they can. We go ahead and put the ask out there to identify those needs, and then look for the biggest things that take place either across the board or the loudest between a lot of organizations. And then we get to find strategic partnerships to go ahead and support those needs. So it could be things like product donations for camps, or it could be things like professional development on certain topics. It could be things like staffing. A lot of camps need more volunteers in order to be able to serve more kiddos. And that brings us to conversations like this today, and just different partnerships and things. So DECA goes out to try to find support for the things that camps need the most. And then that way, camps are able to spend their time and their dollars on getting to know their local families and getting to scoop up those families into their programs, rather than doing that and everything else that every other camp also has to do. We do a couple conferences a year, and have place where our organizations also can just share tips and ideas, and that way they're not each recreating the wheel on every single initiative, because there's a lot of things that are unique about each of our camps, and there's also a lot of things that are really the same. And so we want to be sure that we support those similar things so they can spend time on their own folks instead.
Yeah, thank you for taking us through that. I had a wonderful opportunity. You all hosted your annual conference in my backyard here in California recently, and so I got to go down and participate a little bit, and it was really amazing to just see so many people so energized and active around camping and camping with diabetes and all the different forms that takes. So thank you. All right, back to the last question. If someone is they want to get involved, they're curious from this conversation, whether it's from a volunteer standpoint or finding other ways to connect, what's the first thing they should do after leaving the webinar today?
All right, first thing to do is go to the diabetescamps.org, click on that Find a Camp tab, and search for an organization that is going to be near you. When you click on that, you'll go right to their website, and they're going to have a contact form. I could even just ghostwrite the email for you really quick. I would just say something like, was just on a call with DECA and Blue Circle Health. My name is so-and-so. It's not probably so-and-so, but write your name. I'm an adult living with type 1, and I want to get involved with camp. Can you let me know about the opportunities that are available to me? And then go ahead and send them the email, send them the contact form, and then get ready to be scooped in, and then continue to be a good diabetes advocate for yourself, just like you already are, and share the ways that you want to be connected, share questions that you have, and continue that road until you're there. And if you have other questions, the contact page on our website will get you to me, and I'll help get you plugged in.
Wonderful. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for sharing your time and your perspective with us today. It was really helpful and enjoyable. And I hope it gave people a more clear picture of what diabetes camps actually look like and what opportunities might be possible, even for those who are a little bit older and not the camping age, right? I think that was a big aha moment for me, was that there's still many, many ways to get involved. We will be sure to put the links in the recording, and I've dropped it in the chat as well. But Lisa, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
No, just that I so value you taking the time to be here with us today. And our partnership with Blue Circle Health is so meaningful. Again, like I've already said so many times, but I really believe it with my whole heart. This world is a tough place sometimes, and diabetes can be super difficult sometimes. And just to know that we're not alone, there's others just like us, is really important. So you've got a friend in me. Camp is always here, and I look forward to getting to meet you and hopefully seeing you more soon.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lisa. Well,
Thank you.
again, as Lisa said, thank you all so much for being here and being a part of this conversation. If something you heard today sparked even just a little bit of curiosity, that's a great place to start. You don't have to have it all figured out. Just taking that one small step of find a camp on the DECA website can open the door to something really meaningful. So again, we'll make sure to share links and resources so you can explore this further in a way that fits your life. I'll get the recording and the follow-up email sent out maybe later this week, or if not, very early next week. And then please be sure to remember to check our website events page to stay up to date on future Blue Circle events. And that's at bluecirclehealth.org/events. And then I do also want to call your attention to a new section of our website where you can share a bit about your T1D story. And whether you know it or not, your story matters. And when you share it, you're helping others feel seen, and you're making sure that the realities of living with T1D are heard. So if you'd like to learn more, head to our website at bluecirclehealth.org and look for the Get Involved section in the menu, or scan the QR code or type in that link there. Thanks again for spending this time with us, and we'll see you next time.